What's up, guys? Today we have somewhat of an interesting topic here, and no, it's not like a breaking news signing video or anything. We didn't sign another big name free agent necessarily like Tyrann Mathieu or Jarvis Landry, which have just recently happened. But today I kind of want to dive into a possibility of something the Saints could do, and this is not the Drew Brees thing. We already talked about that. If you want to check that out, check the video I posted about a week ago. But today I want to talk a little bit about Odell Beckham Jr. He's still a free agent, which is very odd considering how he's a very big name, and we're approaching June. So you wouldn't think he's a free agent still, but the main part of that is because of his ACL tear injury, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But yeah, today we're going to not necessarily speculate, but we're going to discuss the possibilities of if the Saints should pursue OBJ, and if the Saints were to get OBJ, what he would bring, and we're also going to discuss if he's actually necessary to sign or not, which my final thoughts on that we'll get into as the video goes on. But this mainly came from the Saints signing Jarvis Landry because, as we know, Jarvis Landry and OBJ were both teammates. They played with one another at LSU. And ever since the Saints got Jarvis Landry, really ever since the Saints got Tyrann Mathieu, actually, New Orleans has become much more of a place where players want to go. It's with the culture, New Orleans has a winning culture, as we know, especially the last few years. Really, ever since that 2017 draft class, that's when things really changed. I mean, there was the early 2010s when the Saints won the Super Bowl and everything, but the main era that we're talking right now was involved in that 2017 Saints draft class when they evolved the defense and Drew Brees was there and they got Alvin Kamara and all these pieces. But New Orleans is really a big free agent destination right now. That's why you're seeing Tyrann Mathieu decided to come home, Jarvis Landry coming home, and a lot of people are really starting to like what the Saints are putting together here, and I don't, you can see why, because this roster's looking pretty good. So Jarvis Landry has been trying to convince OBJ to come home and play wide receiver for the Saints, and as we know, the Saints have a pretty stacked wide receiver core right now, and OBJ would do nothing but make that receiver group stacked even more. We're going to get into that a little bit later, into the whole depth chart of the wide receivers. But first, let's talk about his what's going on with him right now. Because as we know, he's a free agent still. He spent last season with the Rams, but he unfortunately tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, as we all know. And this is not the first time he's tore his ACL. I'm pretty sure in the 2020 season with the Browns, he actually tore his ACL. But I don't know. I should have this pulled up, but I wasn't. I do have some stats pulled up, but not the injury history, unfortunately. But I think he actually tore two different ACLs. I think the ACL that he tore with the Browns was not the same as he tore with the Rams in the Super Bowl. But I could be wrong on that. If I am wrong, I'll probably put something up on the screen that'll let you guys know, because I could be stupid. But yeah, it's not good that you tore your ACL twice, whether it's the same one or not. That's not a good thing at all. And I think that's a big part of why he's remained unsigned. But also part of that could be he's just weighing out his options, as we know. I don't think he's super old or anything, kind of like where Jarvis Landry is. He's been in the league a few years. I think you could consider him a vet pretty much at this point because I don't know how old he is. I think he's 29 or 30 maybe, something like that. And I think he's just kind of weighing out his options here, trying to see if he wants to go back to the Rams. I think now that he has the Super Bowl under his belt, maybe he just wants to go for the paycheck. But I think a part could also be coming home if he's interested in that. So we'll see how that goes. But as we know, last year he spent half of the year with the Rams because he actually got cut by the Browns, I believe, around midseason because the chemistry with him and Baker Mayfield was not working out at all. And most people, including myself, which I do admit, I have admitted, I took a big L on my OBJ stance midway through the season because I thought he was the problem in Cleveland. I was very wrong for that because he, as we saw from his play on the Rams, he was not. Baker Mayfield was absolutely atrocious last year for the Browns. Now, a large part of that was because of the fact that he was very, very injured last year. But even before, he just never really clicked with OBJ, as we saw in that 2020 season. Baker Mayfield was actually surprisingly better when OBJ got hurt and Jarvis Landry was the top option, which is really interesting to see. Now, I do think we can conclude for sure that OBJ was not the problem in Cleveland if we have some stats pulled up here. So the 2021 season with Cleveland, let's see, he had 6 games played. He had 34 targets, only 17 receptions for 232 yards, 0 touchdowns. and only a 50% catch percentage. But in 7 games with the Rams, now this is a regular season. I don't have his playoff stats pulled up, but with the Rams, he had 48 targets. So as you can see, he was involved a lot more in the offense. He had 27 receptions for 305 yards and 5 touchdowns. So that's, 0 to 5 touchdowns. He was a lot more impactful in the red zone and overall in the game plan for the Rams offense. But also Matthew Stafford just simply a better quarterback, and OBJ just simply had a lot more opportunities to get the ball. And even in the postseason, he had some really good moments. I do believe he had a couple 100-yard games in the playoffs. I think he had 100 yards in the wild card round and against the Bucs. I'm not sure about the NFC Championship, but he did also have a touchdown in the Super Bowl before he had to leave the game with that torn ACL. But he was very impactful in the Rams last year. He was the number 2 option along with Cooper Kupp. Robert Woods was the number 2 option, but I do believe, I don't know if he tore his ACL in the offseason or at some point during the season, but Robert Woods was not there for most of the season, which led to the OBJ signing. Now, as we know, the Saints last year were really close to getting OBJ. It seemed like that seemed to be the thing with most big free agent signings. The Saints were always super close to getting someone, and then someone emerges out of nowhere. Like, for example, something like Deshaun Watson. Now, I might make a video on this later on, but the Saints not getting Deshaun Watson might have been the best thing that ever happened to them, as you can see with all these post-draft free agent signings that the Saints were able to get. But, yeah, we didn't get Deshaun Watson, which turned out to be great. We almost got Marquez Valdez-Scantling in free agency, but the Chiefs swooped in at the last moment. OBJ, we almost got him. We ended up not getting him. There's several more that I'm just simply not thinking of right now, because your boy's having a brain fart. But yeah, the Saints, ever since with Tyrann Mathieu and now Jarvis Landry, they've actually been able to pull the trigger on some of these free agents, which has been really good for them. So if OBJ were to come home, I think you would see him, like right now with the way the receiver depth chart is, since right now we have Michael Thomas as the wide receiver 1. I think you would have Chris Olave at the number 2, being your other outside receiver, and then you'd have Jarvis Landry more so in the slot. But Jarvis Landry, as we all know, can play both in the slot and on the outside. Same with really Michael Thomas and Chris Olave. Michael Thomas has had a lot of good moments in the slot. He's a sneaky, really good slot receiver because he's a really good route runner, especially in the short to intermediate range. But I think you'll see Michael Thomas get more opportunities on the outside, having some bigger plays, especially with Jameis having a bigger arm, which I'm gonna make an in-depth video about this probably some other time. But Michael Thomas and Jameis Winston, we have yet to really see that connection, so that's gonna be really great to watch this year, especially with Michael Thomas not being the only option anymore in the Saints. But I think because OBJ is probably gonna miss the first part of the season. By first part, I mean like first few games, maybe like 2 or 3 games because of that torn ACL. But I think you would probably see him at the number 2 option, like the other number 2 outside receiver, because of the fact that Chris Olave is a rookie. So, but this is to the other point as to maybe you wouldn't want the Saints to get OBJ. This would limit a lot of opportunities that Chris Olave would get at the number 2 receiver spot, because Chris Olave, the main thing with him was that he's going to be our deep threat. He's going to be the guy that stretches down the field, and he's going to provide a lot of room for Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry to work kind of underneath and also intermediate. So, if you really want to see Chris Olave get opportunities, which I really do, and I think, like I said, the Saints, they traded, like, here's the thing. They traded up for Chris Olave, so they obviously really like him and what he can bring to the offense. Even before they got Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave is going to be a big part of the offense, especially with Jameis Winston being able to stretch the ball down the field. OBJ would limit those opportunities because of the fact that OBJ is OBJ. You can't just not give him opportunities. But you also don't want to limit your first-round pick that you traded up for to be that deep threat to get less opportunities or to be lower on the depth chart. And you also don't want to like force-feed OBJ the ball just because he's OBJ. As we saw how that turned out with Cleveland. Now, granted, Jameis Winston is far better than Baker Mayfield, but you don't want Jameis to just force the ball to OBJ because he's OBJ. Now, I don't think he would too much, but you would think that Pete Carmichael, who's in control of the offense now because Sean Payton's gone, he would want to get OBJ, though. You can't have OBJ just not giving the ball at some points. So you don't want to see the Saints force-feeding OBJ and limiting what Chris Olave can do. So I think, if I'm being completely honest, I'd be better off for the Saints to keep what they have right now, wide receiver, especially considering how stacked they are. And even then, you still have Marquez Callaway and Deontay Harris, who's actually His name is Deontay Hardy now. I think I've been calling him Deontay Harris, but he changed his last name, I think, for his father or grandfather. I don't know what I forgot what the full thing with that was, but his name is Deontay Hardy. So I'm going to have to remember to call him Deontay Hardy now. But he's always Harris to me. I'm just so used to saying that. But like I said, you still have Marquez Callaway, who was forced into that number one receiver role with Michael Thomas out all season and Tre'Quan Smith mostly playing that number two. But even then, even though he was force-fed at number one, you saw him get better as the season went on. Mostly towards the end of the season, in that second Tampa Bay game, you really saw Marquez Callaway have an impact at the number one receiver. The second Carolina game, you really saw him step up. I mean, he was a number one receiver last year. Now, is he number? I'm not saying Marquez Callaway is a number one, and he should continue to be that option. But you've seen that if the Saints have any injury problems with Jarvis Landry or Chris Olave or Michael Thomas again, Marquez Callaway can come in and be an impactful receiver. I think if the Saints didn't get Jarvis Landry and they just had Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, which is still a great duo, you could still have Marquez Callaway come in and be a very impactful wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 for that matter. And Tre'Quan Smith, I mean, he's not a number one receiver and he's not a number 2 receiver. But you've seen Tre'Quan Smith come in the game and have some big, impactful, contested catches. He's had some big third down moments. And the big thing with Tre'Quan Smith that's kept him around for so long, especially with Sean Payton, in the scheme that we have, he fits our scheme well because of what he provides in the run game. He can block really well. So can Marquez Callaway. So that's why you're still going to have them hanging around. Now, it kind of sucks for Callaway because, especially with all the promise that he showed as an undrafted free agent coming in and being a not solid, but you saw him really improve at wide receiver this year. He's going to be bumped down a lot to like wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. But he's still going to have some opportunities in the run game for sure. And you're still going to see Marquez Callaway and Tre'Quan Smith get snaps. And I do think you're going to see Deontay Hardy get some snaps because him and Chris Olave are both going to be impactful deep threats. You saw Deontay Hardy really have an impact down the field, especially with Jameis Winston, as we saw those. He had that 55 something like that yard touchdown against the Packers. That was just a dagger. Well, it was 38-3, but you get the point. He stretches the field. He does so much for you. And he provides a lot of the short passing game too because of the threat that he has deep down the field. And you really saw him improve in the route running game. But hopefully this probably will make Deontay Hardy a lot more durable because of the fact that he's going to be playing less wide receiver snaps probably. And he's going to be able to mostly focus on the return game, which, I mean, that's what he is. He's a punt returner and a kick returner. But sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent here about all the Saints wide receivers, but it has an impact with OBJ and how he fits into the system here. So in conclusion, because I think this is a good point to kind of draw our conclusions here. I think we talked enough about the Saints wide receivers and his injuries and his stats and all that as to where we could probably judge on the impact that he would have. In conclusion, I don't think the Saints should pursue OBJ. I think the Saints are sitting like around $9 million in cap space right now. OBJ probably wouldn't get that big of a contract. The contract you're probably looking for OBJ would be like a 1-year deal for maybe like $3 million, $2-3 million. And that's around with Jarvis Landry. We got Jarvis Landry for pennies. His contract was actually 1 year for $3 million. It can go up to $6 million in incentives, I believe. If he gets like a certain amount of catches, or if the Saints make the playoffs, then you see that max contract go up. But yeah. Now, I don't think it'd be a too hefty price for the Saints, but I just don't think it's worth it because you want Chris Olave to get those opportunities. You still want to see guys like Deontay Hardy and Marquez Callaway come in the game and have an impact because of the improvements that they've shown. And them not being forced to be those starting wide receivers could also help them a lot, especially with Michael Thomas coming back. That's big just for the Saints offense in general. I think it's in the Saints' best interest to focus that cap space on more important positions. For example, you don't know what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara, which I'll probably make another video on that as the offseason goes on and we get a better idea of Kamara's legal situation. He could be missing part of the season due to the suspension of the thing that happened in the offseason that we're not going to discuss right now. The Saints still need to probably find someone in the running back game, in the running back group. Now, a big part of that has been, or a big rumor to fill in that spot has been Darrell Williams from the Chiefs. I think he visited the Saints or he visited the Superdome or something the other day. Something to look into. The Saints might get Darrell Williams to kind of be that tandem maybe with Mark Ingram. But But I do believe the Saints signed an undrafted free agent running back by the name of what's his name? I think it was Abraham Smith, something like that. I think the Saints really like him. You might see him come in and compete for that spot in training camp. But I think the Saints also like Tony Jones, as we saw from the preseason last year and the beginning of this year. But anyway, we're not talking about the Saints running backs right now. We'll talk about that another day with the Alvin Kamara situation. But in conclusion, I think the Saints need to focus that cap space on maybe running back depth or some D tackle depth, maybe even linebacker depth. Just any other. I think the last, like, I know wide receiver coming into the offseason was a huge concern, but you've basically filled that up with the signings of Jarvis Landry and drafting Chris Olave and getting Michael Thomas back. So I don't think the Saints need another wide receiver. I think they're pretty much stacked there. They could totally focus their money on elsewhere. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Saints should get OBJ? Let me know why or why not, or what you think. I'm kind of glad this video went a little longer because I really wanted to hit these points in depth about what OBJ brings, and I think I did just that. So let me know. Let me know what you guys think about OBJ, if the Saints should get him or not, or just whatever. Just comment something. Let me know how you guys think about the videos. And if you stuck around this long, I don't know how long it's been, maybe 15 minutes or so. I'm kind of proud of myself for going that long. Because I wanted to go a little long, but not too rambly about the Saints. So I think I did a pretty good job there. I'm kind of working on that. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.